This video was recorded in front of a live virtual audience. Hello everybody, Dacob here. Welcome back to the Fashion Bunker. Today's topic is a very interesting one for all of you bag lovers out there, especially Chanel classic double flap bag lovers out there, and especially the Timeless Classic and the 255 Chanel bag lovers out there. This will ruin your bag if you keep doing it. That's the topic. Actually, doing this will ruin your classic Chanel bag. That's the exact topic we're going to be talking about today. But before we get into the tips and tricks how to preserve your bag, I would like to thank you all for tuning in. And if you haven't already, consider please subscribing to my channel here on YouTube, because only 8% of you watching are also subscribed. So it would be nice if we up that game a little bit, and it costs you nothing to subscribe, by the way. I would also like to thank my members and patrons. You can also join today and become a member of my YouTube channel and get special extra perks, as well as extra perks on Patreon. superdacob, all spelled together, also on Patreon. Okay, thank you for tuning in, and thank you to my members and patrons in particular for helping sustain the channel. Now, doing this will ruin your classic Chanel bag. We are talking, in this case, about the 255, which I have semi-packaged here. Why is it semi-packaged? That will ruin your bag. If you're lazy after using it, and you're back home after a whole day of using your bag, and you're a bit lazy of kind of taking all the stuff that you have it inside of it, outside of it, and you're too lazy to kind of baby it a little bit, put protection covers on top of it, put it back into its pouch, put it in its protective, wherever you protect it. If you kind of just start leaving it around the house, you're going to damage it. When you come back from outside, always empty your Chanel 255 in this case, or your double. We're going to be talking mostly about double flaps here, but empty it, the 255 or your Timeless Classic. Wipe it clean with nothing wet. Wipe it with just what you just turn it upside down, empty it like that, shake it. If anything is inside, let it all fall out. And then I always put the little microfiber glovelet that you get with the bag. I always put it in the back to separate the back pocket from the leather of the bag, just in case, so that they kind of dry themselves out reciprocally. The reciprocity is important here, so that the back pocket, in case it's humid or whatever, does not attach itself to the leather bag. So if you don't do that, with time, you might potentially ruin your bag. Another thing, always pay attention with this little zipper here. You will ruin your bag if you don't look at the zipper while you're closing the flap down. Or if you don't just teach yourself, you don't even have to look at it if it's too much work for you to look at it and do this. But feel it, even if you're not looking at it, feel it, and always learn to close the zipper and fold it, like just push it back to this position. See, it kind of has this tendency of falling down like that. Push it down and then close the flap. If you don't do even more like I do, I always put an extra little layer here, because I do not want this metal bit of zipper to dent my leather here. So this metal might dent the leather, right? But let's just say the bag was made to be dented there. It's part of its functionality. So I'm saying having that dent there is a part of this bag. So that's not considered as ruined if it gets the dent. But what you can ruin is the zipper pull. That's why I say keep folding it in its position before closing the flap, because if you don't, you will ruin it, because this little critter has this tendency of being halfway hanging like that, and then when you close the bag, this little guy bends in half. And once it's bent in half, first of all, it's glued, the two sides of it are glued together. It might detach and get damaged and break, and then you might also never get it back straight again. That's a big issue. So if you keep doing that, you're going to damage it with time. Another thing that is a huge no-go, I've seen so many videos on YouTube by these YouTubers that buy these bags and then I don't know what they're thinking. They oftentimes, you're going to hear people tell you, oh, let me take also this protection little paper out. They're going to tell you, this backside pocket, oh, it's so practical for hiding stuff, for putting my phone in there, putting money in there, putting my keys in there. Every time I hear that, I want to say something, but I can't on YouTube, but I feel terrible, okay? For lack of a better, I have a better word, but I can't say it. Because this, don't even call it a back pocket. Do not take it out of your mind. Like, educate yourself to not even consider the existence of this. You see this thing? You could say, oh, it's a back pocket. It's a hidden. It's not, you guys. And stuffing stuff back there is ultimately going to cause terrible damage to the bag, because stuffing stuff back there is going to lead you to unfold these very delicate and precious side stitches here that hold the front, and it's literally just one stitch per side that holds the front flap or the top flap with the bottom flap together. There's one stitch here, and if the bag is well done, it's going to have a vertical and horizontal stitch, and one stitch there, right? And if you keep pushing stuff in the bag, in and out, stretching it out, you're going to damage that stitch, and that stitch is going to come undone. And that means that the back of your bag is going to detach from the front of your bag. Don't ever do that. That is not a pocket to be used. This is a functional part of the bag, functional to the bag, not functional to your usage of the bag. Meaning, this is not a pocket. You should not put anything back there. Leave it flat, leave it empty. You just technically have this one main inner compartment. This is the pocket where you can slide stuff in. This one was made for that, okay? This is the pocket you could put stuff in. This is the pocket you could put stuff in. And then you have your little slip here, these little guys for like cards. Like you can see here, my authenticity card is right there. And of course, so, you see, while I was showing you this little guy flipped up and now got squished a little. You see, he goes upwards. It's not bad though, we can still straighten him, but you gotta always be careful. You gotta be careful. Practice what you preach, Dacob. Same, okay, let me close it now and show you the same issue we have with the back. This pocket is not meant, you guys, this bag was envisioned by Coco Chanel in 1955, okay? In 1955, there was no such thing as a smartphone. There was no such thing as an iPhone. What you put back here was either your passport or a card or just a little ticket or something. Something flat, very flat, a piece of paper, literally. Not a thick, as thin as they're getting, iPhones are still not thin enough. This back pocket, you do not stretch this one out with phones. It's not meant for that. Otherwise, it would have been constructed completely differently. As I said, this design was made this way in the 50s when smartphones didn't even exist. This was for papers, little bills, that's it. Don't stretch it out. The thicker stuff you put in here, you're going to stretch out this leather, and by stretching out this, so you see, the more you open it up on these sides, if you put in a really long iPhone or smartphone or whatever, you're going to stretch this leather, and chances are here there's going to be a lot of wear and tear. Not just that, but as you're wearing the bag and it's kind of rubbing off your clothes and you have this thing protruding in the back because you're putting thick phone in there, you're going to damage this pocket, and the finish of the leather here is going to come undone, and it's going to get really scuffed and rough, and you're gonna damage the bag. Do not ever do that, you guys. Now, do whatever you want. It's your bag. You paid the money for it. But if you wanted to live a healthy life, that's what you got to be very, very careful about. Another thing, if you do this, you're going to damage your bag. Both the Timeless Classic double flap as well as the 255, they have chain straps. The Timeless Classic has the extra added interwoven leather, which doesn't mean nothing for what I'm going to tell you now. Even the leather won't help you here. Whether it's a full-on chain, metal chain, or a leather interwoven into metal chain, still, once you're not using your bag, you do not want to just leave the chain on top of it like this, because it's going to press into that leather and it's going to leave a dent. And the longer you leave it like this, and the lesser the chances that you can remedy it once the damage has been done. If you can, I know a lot of people don't have this in their wardrobes. If you want to leave your bag always in the open air, but just protect it from dust, you need like a long bar where you can like kind of slide stuff on it, like a round one thick like this, so that this bag just hangs like this. This would be the best for the bag. However, that's how Chanel kind of stores them before in the factory before they send them out. However, long term, hanging it up might damage the leather here. So I always say, for the smaller Timeless Classics, this is the 255. So from the 226, it's a different situation. It's a bit bigger. But if you have a size up to this size, which is the classic size, lay it flat on a soft surface like a pillow. But before you do that, what do you do with the chain? Now, Timeless Classics, unless you're not buying them secondhand, in which case you don't know what they come with, but they should always come with this pouch, with this microfiber pouch. And it has two compartments. The main compartment down there is for the bag. And the top compartment is for the chain. Now that's at least how I use it. So the top compartment is for the chain. So we put the chain in there. Now what do? Now, well, before we do that, of course, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, you have to put this in the back pocket and you fold it to the front. So it is kind of like this. So this protects the bag here. Then with this chain inside the top flap, you want to turn it over to the top here, but it's not that simple. You want to roll this in. You want to roll the chain into the flap here so that there's more cushioning and puffer, so that you separate the bag's chain from the actual bag. So for the bags that you're laying upright, you do this, then you put them in their plastic bags. So in this case, this. Do not keep it in the plastic bag for long. Every 2 weeks latest, depending how humid it is where you're living. If you live in a very humid place, don't ever use plastic, because this is going to collect humidity. It ain't going to be good for the bag. If you're living in a dry environment, tops every 2 weeks, you got to take your bag out and let it air a little bit, but this is just to protect it from dust or whatever else have you. And so this goes here, and it just lays delicately on top of 3 or 4 layers of microfiber. So it kind of detaches it, it separates it, and it also separates the weight and the heft from the leather underneath. For a smaller bag like this one that I mentioned, you lay it flat. In this case, we roll almost like a sushi roll. You roll your chain into this little kind of sushi roll there. You see? As tight as you can. And then when you lay it flat, I can't lay it flat now on camera but you get the gist. When you lay it flat, the chain is protected in this upper sushi compartment, and it doesn't touch the leather at all. It comes out of its holes up there, the rivets, and as it comes out, it lands right straight into this little sushi roll there. So you lay it flat on a pillow on a soft surface. A soft surface, why? Because you don't want the puffiness down here to get damaged with pressure with time, and you lay it like that. That's how you store it. Otherwise, it's going to be a mess. What you shouldn't do, and I've learned this the hard way, but thank God I didn't learn it too late. Oftentimes in the boutiques, how they present these bags and how they store them, what the sales associates do, and it's tragic, really, You can do it, but so they pull the chain on one side. Okay. And then they pull the chain back in and they put it into the bag. And then they close the bag, and that's how they store them. In many, many Chanel boutiques, they store it like this. This is the issue I have with this way of storing your bag, because this chain that you have pulled this way, you saw what I did, right? And then we pulled it down there. By storing it this way, the chain here will damage your inner flap. It will damage your inner flap. And if you pull too tight, it will damage it irreparably, because it will bend the leather. Because what it does here, when you pull it in, it's gonna my gosh, everything is mirrored. There. It goes in there and it keeps putting pressure on this flap. So what does this mean? Let me take it out and show you. This means that with time, this little bit of the flap here is going to bend. It's going to bend inwards, and it's going to have this terrible bent dent. And you're going to notice a lot of secondhand Chanel bags. Nobody ever tells you to look at that, but you have to look when you're buying them to see if somebody stored their bag with their chain inside that way, because they're usually going to have this side or this side, depending on which side they, pull the chain in, bent and dented. That's going to ruin your bag, because with the pressure that you keep putting onto the bag in that spot, this is a very thin leather, you guys. So what happens here is this chain, as beautiful as it is, it's an aggressive mofo, okay? It can rip that leather. By pulling it out of the bag and back in, it's going to keep rubbing against this inner little tiny flap, and you can just rip through it. And once that damage is done, you can't fix it. Not even Chanel can fix that for you. They would have to open the entire bag, undo the entire bag, do the entire inner flap all over again. Like, you just might as well buy a new bag, because that's how much it's going to cost you to repair it. So don't ever do that. Store it the way I told you to. If it's a small size like this, lay it flat on a soft pillow surface, put it in its dust bag, and then roll this chain like a sushi up to here. Don't let it touch the leather. Don't store it on top of the bag. Leather on top of the bag will scar, put pressure on the bag, and leave a dent. And most importantly, if you don't want to damage the bag, do not leave it laying around out and about, because somebody's going to snatch it. And the worst damage a bag can have is when it's missing for good. So guys, I hope you liked this tips video. Tips on, well, doing this will ruin your classic Chanel bag. So tips on what not to do, how to preserve your bag to keep it healthy for a long time to come. So what do you guys say in the chats? Because we are filming in front of a live studio, a virtual studio audience. I still have yet to purchase my very own Chanel bag. I have others, but not Chanel, and it does break my heart. Jack Dean says, is there any record of how Coco stored and kept her bag safe? Oh, Coco didn't care. She was so... Coco, I mean, she could get whatever she wanted. They just make a new one for her. But she wasn't really that... She wasn't a collector. She liked to use things. She used them. She loved the utilitarian aspect of things. So, but also, let's not forget, back in her time, these bags were not so expensive as they are today. The ratio, the proportion, how much, even with inflation rates of today, the bags were still, compared to the 50s standards, much cheaper than they are today. So there wasn't all of this precious element around the bag like we have today, like this obsessive, compulsive wanting to baby a bag. You know, back then they were really items to use, and they were meant for use, for heavy duty use. And that's what people bought them for. Now, you know, you got to save up money for 4 years to get a freaking bag. That's insane. That's not how it should be. But unfortunately, it's where we're at economically in this world today. And so So we have to find out new ways to preserve something to make it live longer. But back in the day, in Coco's time, you bought it to love it, to live it, to use it, and then when it breaks, you get a new one. Because they, you know, you could afford, it was affordable-ish, more than it is today. Just another Roger says, I wouldn't even put a love letter at the back like Coco did. Coco didn't put a love letter in the back. Coco did not, this is not where she put love letters. And also, you know, the whole story about this is where she put love letters. I had a wonderful subscriber of mine explain to me a very interesting reason behind this, because the bag does come from jockeys / postmen, the post bags. So they're meant to be worn actually double. So they had a pocket here and a pocket there. But also the ones that are single pocket, the idea is when you're wearing it and you open it, that you're, I'm not going to do that with this one because you have to bend the flap all the way backwards. You bend it all the way backwards, and when you do that, then you realize that, because you see this pocket goes upwards. You know how many YouTube reviews of the Timeless Classic, the 255 I've seen, where the people unboxing don't even know about this box? So, so funny to see their faces when they think that their bag is defect. They're like, oh yeah, and then there's this pocket, you guys. And then they try to go in it from down, but it doesn't work that way. The pocket goes upwards, and they're like, you see, they go like, yeah, it's a great pocket. Yeah, so moving on, then I got this, you know, that they tried to change the subject because they have no clue how this works. So you're supposed to bend the flap backwards. When you do that, the pocket all of a sudden is bent downwards. You pull the zip and you can access it from the down. That's another kind of inspiration from more postal service, if you may. So love letters, because it's referencing the post, letters come through the post. You could say she had love letters in there, but that's a little bit of a myth. Kind of also connected a little bit to, you know, the appropriation of the owners of the brand today, of the life of Coco, and making it their own just for the sake of selling even more. So, you know, take it with a pinch of salt, with a grain of salt, what is truthful and what is myth about Chanel in general. But she herself said, I sometimes lose myself in the myth of my own, in the labyrinth of my own myth. I sometimes lose myself in the myth, even I sometimes lose myself in the labyrinth of my own myth. That's what she used to say. And so in a way, things can be invented, added to the story, but in the classic size of this bag that Coco, closest to Coco's size of the bag, this pocket is so tiny you can't really, sure, you could fold a letter in like 10 sides in order to lay it flat in there, but it's a symbolic pocket. Nobody ever uses it. I think it's a waste of space because this zipper pull is so aggressive metal. It dents in the flap up there, and you just don't want to do that. But that's the way they construct it. This is also one of the reasons why I can recommend you buy, you know, the mini rectangular 255, because it's a single flap and it doesn't have that zipper issue. But of course, if you want a piece of history, you need a double flap, because that's Coco's first version of the bag. And it does look really beautiful. I'm trying to get that gorgeous red, there. When it reflects the red light that comes from the back. Oh, look at it changing from like black, bluish hues to red. So for whoever might be asking in the future, because I get these questions a lot in the videos, like, oh, is your bag blue, gray? Depends on the lighting. Black always has either a blue shade at the base or a red shade at the base. And that's why when you illuminate it with a strong spotlight, either a red base or a blue base shines through. But this bag is black. Okay. You can get handbag stands, but I would only use one of those for a cheapy bag, says Daniel. Give the children a history lesson, says George. Daniel says, frankly, I would not even put a telephone in the back slip pocket of a cheapie, never, unless I literally wanted to stretch the back pocket for some reason. Callie Tally says, I don't own not one Chanel bag or any high-end purse bag, but I'm enjoying listening to him and the advice he is giving. Oh, thank you, Callie Tally. Thank you. Red Cupid bow lips, perfect way to store such a beautiful bag. Thanks. Dondism says, I will buy a 255 bag when I can afford it. I like the metal gun chain. Oh, you like the ruthenium leather hardware. Wilfi Derfly. Hi, sweetie. With so many people motivated to keep their bags in pristine condition, would you feel like you lose out on the experience of wearing down a leather bag like in the heyday? Of course you would. You definitely would, but you definitely would lose that experience. And it's a wonderful experience. I mean, I store and baby my bags when I don't use them. Like the way I package it is when I don't use it, right? But when I'm out and about and I use it. I go for it and I love it. And it makes me feel so good. And I love to hug it and I'm a very tactile person. It's so beautiful to the touch as well. It has a consistency and a texture that is just divine. And of course you consume the bag when you're using it, but that's fine. There's this wonderful photo. Maybe I can share that with you. Let me just see if I can find it quickly. There's a wonderful photo that you can see on, that I posted on my Coco Chanel Privé Instagram profile, all spelled together, where you get to see some people in the 50s and 60s using, like photographed out and about with the 255 bag. And it's delicious to see how they enjoyed their bags. I'm going to show you a photo. If I can quickly find it. Because the Coco Chanel Privé Instagram profile does have a lot of photos about Coco's life and the people that she worked with or for whom she made clothes, but also bags. And among them are many, of course, stars, actors of the time, more or less famous people, some people that were in the, aristocratic society that didn't want to be really seen and noticed. So she had all sorts of clients, and she had this wonderful way of changing the way she would talk according to who she had in front of her. So she could be very elegant and poised, but then she could also be very down to earth and simple, if she needed to be with people. So of course I can't find the photo now. Really? I thought I posted it. Here, of course I did. Here it is. Okay, so let me see if we can. I have to zoom in the photo for you guys. So this one is from 1962. And it is Catherine Deneuve and a friend, and both of them with their 255 bags at a movie premiere. Look how deliciously, back in the day you could smoke anywhere, by the way, they're in a cinema, right? And Catherine Deneuve is smoking. Look how deliciously she is enjoying her 255 bag. Okay, she's literally, on the counter of the cinema and her friend next to her. She has her leather, 1962, they also had leather, 255 bags. She's literally leaning in on it. Just leaning in on it, enjoying it. Now this is, to me, how you enjoy a bag. It's a part of her. It's making her feel comfortable. It's almost like her little pillow to make her feel comfortable while she's leaning on the counter. She's not disrespecting the bag. She's still loving it. But it's, you know what I mean? It gives you that sense of the lusciousness of how to use it. Sure, this would damage it long term, but it's an object that you use that enhances the pleasure of your life. And she really went into it. Catherine looks marvelous in that photo. She is wearing her bag just like Liz Taylor. A bag can either be a collection or for convenience. Let it be what the purpose the owner wants it to be. I have only one vintage. I rarely use it. Of course, just another Roger. It's all up to you. At the end of the day, it's an object for you to make you feel good. So however it makes you feel good, you go for it, Yes, Liz Taylor used to look amazing with a Chanel bag. There was nothing cautious or precious about her use of the bag. She wore it. The bag did not wear her. Well said. Well said. Well said. So thank you, Daniel. With that, we're going to end this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've enjoyed the tips. And ultimately, it's up to you whether you want to live with your bag for every day, or if you want to baby it. There's no wrong or right. But if you do want to preserve its shape as long as possible, those are the tips that I gave you at the beginning of this video, throughout this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please do consider subscribing to my channel and becoming a member. You can push the join button and become a member. The join button is positioned right next to the subscription button. You can also join me on Patreon, become a patron. The videos that are exclusive for Patreon and members are really special because they cannot come to YouTube, they stay there. And also there is a podcast that I initiated. The first episode is already on the members list as well as on Patreon, where I talk about perfumes. And the first episode, the first podcast was about perfumes and esoteric perfumes and philosophy in perfumes and Carl Jung and perfumes. So you could check that out as well. So as time progresses, more of them are coming in. One a month is scheduled. And also you can join me, as I mentioned in this video, on Instagram, superdacob all spelled together, but also on my Chanel related Instagram profile. So you've just seen me show you a photo from my Coco Chanel Privé Instagram profile, Coco Chanel Privé, all spelled together, showcasing everything that Chanel created and has done in her life, during her life, up until 1971. But then I also have another Instagram profile I curate called Coco Chanel is in my house, where I showcase my Chanel collection or everything that Chanel, the brand, is up to these days in modern times. And you will realize that they're quite different. You know, the Chanel of today, the brand Chanel of today, and Coco Chanel, the woman and the designer, and her brand while she was alive. They're very different. Not saying one is better than the other, but they're very different, and I think it merits a conversation. You know, what are the differences? It's a very fascinating topic. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. The 255, the love of my life. This is my Holy Grail bag, and I wish to say goodbye to you. And until next time, never forget to never give up on 255 love. Love you all. See you soon. Take care. Bye.